Good afternoon, everyone. This is Rick Baker. I'm in the Frisco, Texas office of Coldwell Banker. Here's an ongoing series that I have called Mistakes That Realtors Don't Tell Their Buyers or Investors. Today's edition, how to get pre-approved. A lot of the buyers will go out and they'll think that they can go get a pre-qualified letter. A pre-qualified letter, when I receive one of those, it means the person has a pulse and maybe could buy a home one of these days. Most realtors don't even read the full letter. They'll look at the first paragraph and they'll say, okay, they're approved for $500,000. And then I go read the exceptions and the qualifications to that, saying, oh, we don't have their tax returns, we don't have verification of income, we don't have verification of assets. There's a thing in mortgages called desktop underwriting, or sometimes they call it AUS, automated underwriting. A smart monkey can get a pre-approval letter with that system. If you're going to go out and invest the time and money, you want to get a solid pre-approval, and you want to do it as soon as you start searching, and here's why. Unlike what the internet tells you, there's actually, the credit scoring system is a system of 20-point buckets. The internet tells you the big ones are 580, 620, 680, 720, 780. That's true. But you know what? If you had, say, a 659 credit score, if you spend more than a day on it, you could get to a 660 because they're 20-point buckets. So it'd be 620 to 640, 620 to 639, 640 to 659, et cetera, et cetera. And the people with a 679 credit score get a different interest rate and different loan options than a 680. So by applying now, you can verify exactly where you're at, because Credit Karma is basically worthless. It's worth exactly what you paid for it, which is nothing. So finding out what your real credit score is and having the time to make the corrections, not that there are corrections, not that someone might have bad credit, but to if you spend the next 3-4 months looking for homes, you can work with a good loan officer and they'll tell you how to get to the next step, because they just take a look at the profile, tell you what you need to get from A to B to C. And I've had clients who've gone up 30 and 40 points over the time where we're looking for the home. So their credit score goes up, they get better options when it comes to a loan, they save a ton of interest on the mortgage. But that's a pre-qualified letter, which to me, again, is nothing. There's pre-approval, and again, depending on what the exclusions are, where, if the buyer doesn't have verification of income, they don't have their pay stubs, they don't have their tax returns in, if I see that has not been submitted, I have to wonder if that buyer is that serious, and who knows if they're going to be able to perform. Those are the first two. The real way to get pre-approved is to go what I call it getting in and out of underwriting. Now that means everything's been submitted, tax returns, pay stubs, they've done a hard pull on all 3 credit bureaus, and they say, okay, this guy can buy a house. They send everything to the underwriter looks at it and says, this is rock solid. That way, when I write the offer on behalf of the client, I'm negotiating with the seller's agent, and I just say, listen, this client's in and out of underwriting. This is like a cash offer. And I believe in aggressive offers. I believe in almost deeply insulting offers many times, because realtors don't know how to price houses. Most realtors in America are part-timers, and frankly, I don't even think they know what day of the week it is. But if you find a home that you like, having a pre-approval letter that's in and out of underwriting is worth its weight in gold. The other thing is it allows you time to make those improvements that we talked about, but in and out of underwriting sometimes they call it a TBD approval, where in other words, the only thing that needs to be done is to be determined is the address of the property. So that's the way you get a pre-approval letter. That way the buyer is rock solid, because at the end of the day, the seller is going to get married to the buyer, in effect. And they want to make sure that the buyer can perform, because nobody likes to go under contract and 30 days down the road find out the buyers, maybe they had a great year last year, but the tax returns are 2 years. Maybe they're a lot of overtime. Maybe they're in sales and they had a great year, and so they looked at the good year, but the mortgage company looks at 2 years. So by having it in and out of underwriting, your pre-approval is a rock solid one. That's how you get a rock solid pre-approval letter, and anything else is worthless. Okay, if you're going to go out and spend the time to buy a house, put your best foot forward. Go get it where it's in and out of underwriting. Now, the cautionary note on that is the people in underwriting, they don't know if you're going to have a house in 2 weeks or 6 months. So they're not that excited about doing that right now. Your loan officer and your realtor have to push the underwriting department to get it done, because they're going to work on the contracts that they have in effect. And most realtors, 95, 98% of realtors don't do this, but I want to make sure that the buyer is rock solid. So when I go to represent them, I can talk to the seller and say, listen, this is a rock solid approval. The letter is not just pre-approved, it's in and out of underwriting. This is rock solid. Everything's been verified. Income's been verified. Assets have been verified. It's called a tri-merge credit report, where they looked at all 3 credit bureaus. That's how you get a rock solid approval, and that's how you get the house of your dreams. Because if the seller doesn't like the pre-approval letter, and if the realtor actually reads the entire pre-approval letter, and that's probably 10% maybe that read the entire pre-approval letter to read what the exclusions and limitations are, you find a home you want, you're not going to have time to take care of that. So that's how it works. Again, my name is Rick Baker. I'm in the Frisco, Texas office at Coldwell Banker. You want to spend the time. Most importantly, the biggest thing you can do is understand that there's a 20-point bucket system in credit. And by understanding it, having a good loan officer, and again, that's an if, having a good loan officer work with you and say, okay, this is what you need to get to from 760 to 780. The loan officer, your rate drops like a rock if you can get to that next threshold. So again, Rick Baker, Coldwell Banker, Frisco, Texas, 972-836-8880. My website, getarealrealtor.com. If you're thinking of selling your home, give me a call. I'll talk you out of it. I have a website, neversellyourhome.com. I was an investor before I was a realtor. I teach people how to grow wealth. And I just have a basic truth. If it was good enough for your family to live in, it's good enough to rent out. Give me a call. Thank you.